Episode 52 of the Pressbox Podcast is here, and in this episode, we're going to talk NFL football. Last episode, we gave you our fantasy preview. This year, we're going to give you our 2020 league year preview. So we're going to talk about some of the changes that are coming this year. No preseason games, COVID procedures, playoffs changes, fans, all that. And then we'll break down the divisions. We'll talk about the NFC and AFC, our division winners, our wildcard teams, and we'll give you our Super Bowl picks. Super Bowl 55 coming this February. And before we get started, as always, if you want to interact with us, contact us on Twitter at PressBoxPod. If you're a new listener out there, be sure to listen to our previous episode as well. We have like I said, this is episode 52. We have a great catalog of episodes you can listen to. And without further ado, let's talk some NFL football for the 2020 season.
Okay, we're back on the Pressbox Podcast. This is episode number 52 for those of you who are counting at home. Last episode, we discussed fantasy football. We know that's a tremendous draw in this country with most people who love football playing fantasy football. Today, we're going to talk about our NFL preview as tonight the NFL kicks off its 2020 season with the Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs hosting the Houston Texans in a rematch of the divisional playoff game last year, one in which the Chiefs found themselves behind 24-0 and then vaulted back to win. I believe it was 51-31 or something in that general neighborhood. Lots to discuss. I'm here with my co-host Joseph Miranda and our producer Nathan. And Joseph, this is going to be a different season, not so much from the standpoint of the games that are being played, but more of a different season from the standpoint of there's not been any preseason games. We've got this COVID-19 issue kind of hanging over the balance. And to top things off, the NFL is instituting a new playoff format. So what are your initial thoughts before we get deep into it?
Yeah. Those are all obviously good points and a lot of things that people are going to focus on. I guess I'll start with the no preseason games. So that's kind of where we're at right now. I think it was yesterday they had to cut down to 53.
Correct.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So from a coach's perspective, I'm sure they didn't like it because they use preseason games to see players and game situations and things like that. I'm sure the players loved it. They were the ones pretty much vying for no preseason games, I think was correct. Didn't they originally move to 2?
They moved it to 2 originally,
okay.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, but and no joint practices either. So at the same time, it's got to be old to be in camp from late July till now with no preseason game. So you got to think the players are ready to play now. As far as preseason games, like if you've been in the league for 4 or 5 years, I mean you know what to expect on game day. But I think it could hurt some of these younger guys, especially like Joe Burrow, rookies that are expected to start and play a lot.
Right.
Maybe our producer Nathan can shed some light on this issue. Like, do you feel like you could play a game, without any preseason games? And obviously, these teams have had live scrimmages, even in their stadiums. I think a lot of them have. But what do you think about that?
Well,
you've played most recently among all of us. So.
I guess that's true. Well, I don't think I've ever had to do it,
right.
So it's tough to say. I definitely, if somebody were to give me the option, I definitely would rather take some type of preseason game or some type of something more than a scrimmage, some type of preseason game or like jamboree,
right,
before having to play your first real game. Because I think it's good to get some. A scrimmage is basically live action, but it's a little different. It's good to get It's good to get It's good to also get your game day routine down. You know what I mean, because a lot of times a scrimmage is at the same time as a practice,
right.
But to get you have the night before, you wake up, you have your game day routine, you go to the stadium, the field, and even if you just play like a couple of series, just to get that feeling of kickoff. Okay, you get the first series out of the way, everything that goes into it. I think it, but like I said, I don't know if it would make a difference. You know what I mean, if one team did it and one team didn't do it, would you see any difference in their first game then? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a really good point. I think you both brought up really good points. I think let me talk to Joseph's point first. I think for quarterbacks, especially young quarterbacks, I think it's going to be a tremendous disadvantage to them. I mean, because a lot of these teams have had scrimmages. I mean, as you know, I'm a big Giants fan. I follow their app, the Giants app. The Giants had a couple of live scrimmages, and it was interesting because I read where their new coach Joe Judge actually set it up as close as he could to a real game. And what I mean by that is
take down the quarterbacks and everything.
Take down that. I guarantee. Well, no, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about he had he had a halftime. He had somebody interview him coming out of the locker room. He had
him.
Well, I mean, like interviews, like how if it's an NFL game or something, he had he challenged plays. So I mean, in other words, he tried his best, and I'm sure a lot of teams did that to simulate as close as possible what a live game would be like.
Right, but it's not the same.
It's not the same. That's exactly
right.
Even
in preseason, when another team is, you know what I mean?
It's different.
Yeah. It's different, and that's why I think as much as the players may like it, I think even the players are going to feel a difference, because you can't tell me that a scrimmage is like a live game, especially in the NFL. You know what I mean?
I don't think there's any question that they're missing something that they can't replace. My question was, do you think after their first hit of the first game, are they going to be off on the ground running, or are they going to be is it going to be different once you actually start your first game? Is it going to make a difference if you didn't play preseason?
I'm saying if you've had years under your belt and a lot of reps, it's not. I think they'll get right back into it. I'm saying for younger players, it may. I don't know.
Well, I'll tell you what I think is going to happen too is I think, and this is going to affect our previous episode, fantasy football, because I think what you're going to find is coaches have not had a chance to really evaluate players like they have in the past. Okay. So I think you're going to see over the first 2 or 3 weeks, I think, a lot of players released and new players signed, because you're going to be evaluating guys for the first time, and guys you thought were good enough to make the roster maybe weren't good enough to make the roster.
Depth charts moved around.
It moved around, exactly. So I think you're going to see the first 4 weeks of the season, I think you're going to see a lot of fluctuation. I don't think the play is going to be as good, especially teams that don't have established quarterbacks. So I think it's going to be an interesting first 4 weeks where the play is not going to be as good as it would be on a normal week one of an NFL season.
Because they haven't had the preseason.
Because they haven't had the preseason.
So you do think having those games it puts you in a better spot to perform well in week one?
I think it does. I think it does. I really do.
I think that's what I was getting at.
And the reason I do that is and people may say, well, high schools and colleges don't have preseason games. And that's true. They have jamborees. They do.
Scrimmages too.
But colleges don't have jamborees, right?
There's a different though.
So, but I think it's different because the talent is so different in those levels, right? In other words, in college, your most talented players are going to end up taking over the game anyway, because there's more of a talent dispersion among teams than there is in the NFL.
Yeah.
In the NFL, let's face it, I mean, most teams are as talented as the other team, with the exception of a few positions, and the games are usually won or lost on turnovers, coaching, things of that nature. So I think it's going to affect the NFL a little more than we think.
Yeah. In college, I mean, let's face it, in a regular college season, you have 1 or 2 games, like on week one, that's maybe like an Oregon and Oklahoma, or like a big matchup. But usually, other than it's a tune-up game.
That's true.
If you're Georgia, you're playing Valdosta State.
That's like a preseason game.
Yeah, it's like they're scrimmage.
And I guess I'll have to, now that I didn't really think about it, but I have to step back. When you first asked me the question, I actually, my entire college career, I didn't have the equivalent of a preseason game, because when you're D3, D2 type of college,
you don't have a
D3,
tune-up game.
You don't have a tune-up game, and you don't have preseason games, and you don't have a jamboree.
That's right.
So I guess I did my whole college. I guess, so to answer the question a little more accurately, I liked it better, I guess, to have a jamboree in high school to get you kind of a few snaps.
Right.
But when I didn't have anything like that in college, it wasn't
that big a deal.
I didn't notice it. I wasn't like, oh no, week one without any type of
Yeah.
preseason game. I was just like, it's week one.
Yeah. No, I agree with that.
I think 2 is probably the right number. I mean, I personally was fine with the way it was. I didn't think they should have changed anything.
Right.
Of course, I'm not the one playing the games and going through camp, but 4 preseason games, 16-game schedule, keep the playoffs the way it was. But sooner or later, they're going to go to an 18-game schedule because they want to do that,
right,
which makes sense for 2 preseason games.
Right.
I think that's okay. That's probably what they'll end up doing eventually.
Well, I think the players, I mean, let's face it, the owners wanted to go to 2 preseason games this year, but the players used the COVID-19 Joker card to get rid of the 2 preseason games, and they did, and that's fine. But I think next year you're going to see two preseason games come back. I mean, I just think you have to have some preseason games. One, to give players a chance to feel live game action, but mostly to evaluate players. You can't tell me that you can evaluate players that properly in scrimmages. It's hard to do. Yeah. And most scrimmages, like Nathan said, I don't care how much you try to make it like a live game, you just can't, because you're wanting to look at certain things, right? In other words, let's say you have a linebacker that is young, right? You're going to tell the offense, okay, I want you to run 3 off-tackle plays this series to see if this guy can fill the hole. Well, in a preseason game, you can't do that, right? In other words, he's going to have to play the flow of the game the way it goes.
And even if you even if you look at something like a spring game, which is basically set up to be like a game,
right.
It's like a game day, and
right.
you have 2 separate colored teams. I
right.
mean, like different colored jerseys.
Right, right.
But even then, it's not the same from the standpoint of the players you're playing against. You know all their tendencies. You know their strengths and weaknesses because you play against them every day in practice.
Right. Exactly.
So even if they didn't do what you said, and they tried to run plays based on they're trying to win or get whatever. Like a certain offensive lineman may always try to cut you. Or that this guy likes to try to hold if he can get outside your patch. Right. Or this running back is not quite as fast as that running back. Whereas if it's a new team, you might not know all those little intricacies.
Right, and to take your point about a college spring game, I've told you many times about my one claim to fame that I intercepted Joe Montana in a spring game. Well, the way they break up the teams is they put most of the starters on one side and the second and third team guys on the other side, okay? Or I guess maybe starter second. My point is, when I was playing on the team, when I intercepted the pass, I was playing against the starters, okay? Starting offensive line. Well, then after I did that, they moved me over to the number 1 team. Well, now I'm playing against backup offensive linemen. It was a lot easier for me to play. You see what I mean? So you've got a different mix of talent, and it's hard to really evaluate. I mean, is a guy making plays because he's that good, or is it because he's playing against talent that's a little inferior? You see what I mean? So it's hard to tell in a spring game.
I feel like a lot of times, though, they'll have, of course they have first team offense, second. They have, like you said, all the teams on each side of the ball. Don't they usually try to, they might say this series is 1-on-1s, this is 1-on-2s, this is 3-on-4s,
Sometimes
this is 2-on-3. They mix it up, right?
Yeah, they do mix it up a lot.
This is 1-on-4.
But again, you're still not getting a true sense of you can evaluate players that way, but you can't really get a true sense of how the game's going to flow for your starters or for your guys who are going to see most of the action.
But again, at the end of all of it, though, I still think that if you're not a rookie in the NFL, if you're a veteran, or at least you've been there a couple of years, and you don't have any preseason games, you may have preferred to have them, and you might like it better to have one going into the week 1 mentally. But once week 1 starts, I don't think you're any different on the field.
Probably not.
No, I don't think your play is any different.
The only difference is maybe if you're a veteran that's on a new team and a new system.
Right.
Maybe.
I don't know, but still, that's more important for quarterbacks. Maybe,
right.
Like Cam Newton or Phillip Rivers or.
Yeah. Right. I agree with that. I agree with that. So the second thing that we want to discuss that's going to be different this year is you've got this COVID-19 cloud hanging over everybody's head. All right. Now the good thing is I saw a report that. And I'm going to have these numbers wrong, but I'll get somewhat close. Over 56,000 COVID-19 tests that they have done from the start of training camps opening to now, they only had a 0.001% positive rate, which is a good sign, okay? Yeah, there have been some teams that have had to cancel practices. There's been some players that haven't been able to play. But, that's always going to be hanging over the head. For example, if, let's say, we're getting ready to play a big game, maybe the 49ers are playing the Saints, okay? Let's say that Drew Brees tests positive. I mean, for whatever reason. Now, that changes the whole complex of the game, right? I mean, so it's possible that the season could turn out different than would have normally turned out because some key players may not have been playing in the game.
I definitely think that. Well, my stance on this. I definitely think the season's going to play out differently because I think that's going to happen. Not to mention the contact tracing. What if Breeze's wife gets COVID-19, and of course he's contact traced to him, and they tell him he can't show up that week.
Exactly. Yeah, it could happen.
All right. My take is, we all know how football works. Do you think
I know what you're going to say.
They're really going to A, test as much as they should be testing.
Yeah.
B, announce that somebody has a positive test.
Yeah.
I mean, A, they may not test him. B, if Drew Brees tests positive, they're just going to be like, let's just sweep this under the rug. Do you feel good? Yeah.
Especially if he's contact traced. If his wife gets this, going to be like, listen, just no one has to know.
And that's a really, really, really good point, because I also read another article that said that the ESPN news media was saying, and this is not NFL, but it kind of goes along with your point, that the Power 5 conferences have been, quote, uncooperative in releasing COVID-19 data. In other words, they're not going to tell anybody what's going on, okay?
Can you imagine Bill Belichick trying to get some COVID information out of him? He's not going to tell
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, that's very true. That's very true. But it's,
I think that's going to be happening a lot.
It probably will.
No, you don't think it will.
No, I mean,
Wait.
what I described is going to be happening.
Oh, yeah. So, in other words, you won't see a lot of effect on the games because they're
not big time players. Now you'll see some random players thrown out so they can say, "Hey, we're testing, we're finding tests." Because if a team has nobody tests, nobody tests positive the whole season, the people will start asking questions.
Well, I think it'll be interesting because probably when they get in the locker room one day, they'll go, "Jim, today's your day. You're the COVID-19 guy today." Oh crap! I won't be able to play this game.
So I think that's going to go on a little bit.
I think you're right. Yeah, they're not gonna.
No, they're not gonna do that.
I think. Look, if you look at it as a level playing field, I think the season would come out differently because of this.
Yes.
But I think they will be covering all of that up.
All right. Now, and another thing that's interesting with football too that you can't do. You can do it with the other sports, but you can't do it with football. Is like look at baseball. They've been postponing games and then replaying them in doubleheaders.
Yeah.
You can't really do that with football. I mean, so you only have a limited time to play this season.
Yeah.
You don't have many off weeks. Yeah. So you really can't postpone any games.
Yeah, I don't think there'll be any postponements. I don't think there will be.
Yeah, I don't think there will be either.
Last thing that you mentioned, and we'll get to our playoff predictions, but playoffs are altered this year.
Yes, they are. Which I don't like.
No, I find it totally ridiculous. You've got 7 teams in each conference now instead of 6, with the one seed getting a bye, only the one seed getting a bye instead of the top 2. I don't know what to say. It's so ridiculous. I want to let everybody make the playoffs. I mean, you've got the NBA and NHL where I think it's a little over 50%, 53% make the playoffs. I was calculating it.
Right. Baseball.
Baseball has they had the lowest.
Yeah, but they're going to more.
They're going to more teams too now. Football, I think it was
about roughly 30%.
And now it's 37%.
Yeah.
And baseball was about 30.
Now it's gone up.
But even take a step back. A few years ago, baseball was 8 out of 30, and then they added the wild card game, which I really don't mind because it places emphasis on winning your division. But this football, it's ridiculous. I mean, there's 16 games. Every game matters. Playoff spots are coveted spots. Now you're going to have teams that are 8-8 making the playoffs. Probably see a 7-9 team eventually if they keep this up.
Well, 7-9 made it in the old playoff system one time, so definitely system. 7-9.
Yeah, that was the division. The Seahawks won their division, which is just a very weak
division.
Well,
but they also, to go along with that point, I've seen reports said that had this playoff format been implemented last year, the Steelers would have made the playoffs at 8-8, and the Rams would have made it at 8-8 in the NFC. They would have been the seventh teams, and the question was, did those teams really deserve it?
No.
You know, the Steelers limped to the end of the season.
No, they don't deserve it.
And the Rams did too. Yeah. So you're adding a team, more than likely, a team that really doesn't deserve to be in the playoffs.
Yeah, it's tough.
And my point is, if you look at this new system and play it out over the last 10 years, how many 7-9 teams would have made it? Probably a handful of 7-9.
Yeah, probably. I mean, it's possible.
So you have three wild card teams now.
Right.
Yeah, but
that's ridiculous.
Yeah, 7-9, and even at 8-8, you're not a playoff team. What did you do to make the play? What did you earn? How do you earn the playoffs?
And then talk about too. If I think one of the things that college football has always had going for it over the NFL is that every game matters. Right. Well, you're just lengthening that gap now between the two because now NFL games matter even less.
Right.
I mean. They already matter less than college because you can go 8-8 and maybe make the playoffs. You can go 9-7. In college, you basically couldn't lose a game if you want to,
Right.
It's helped now with the playoff system, but still, you can only lose one game. Maybe.
Right.
And now in the NFL, it's even making it worse. Right.
No, I agree with that. I think it is, and I really believe that in my view, football along with baseball are the two sports that should limit their playoff teams the most. And the reason I say that is because baseball, more than any, is all you have to do is get in. And once you get in, look at the Nationals. You can get hot, right? You have a couple pitchers get hot, you have a couple hitters get hot, and you could be a pretty big spoiler. Same in the NFL. I mean, all it takes is to get in. I mean, they're all pretty talented, all right? Teams can get hot, quarterbacks can get hot, and I don't think it's right to dilute the NFL playoffs or the baseball playoffs. Basketball and hockey's a little different.
But even with like basketball, like not so much the team can get hot, but you're just wasting time.
Yeah, you are.
Like why put a
same in hockey probably.
Yeah, like an under 500 Nets team. They're going to play the number 1 seed Celtics or whatever.
You're wasting 4 games.
Yeah, best out of 7 series. You're just wasting time.
Right.
How often does an 8 seed beat a 1 seed? Very rarely.
Very rarely.
And even if they beat them, they're not going to the finals.
No.
I mean, basketball, you have only a handful of teams that are finals contenders. So just have 3 division winners and a wild card, 4 on each side. You know what I mean? You save a lot of time, and you have the teams that are going to win anyway.
Well, but we all know the reason why they do this, right?
Money. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, the NFL is going to make, by having an extra game, I take that back, by having an extra 2 games on the first weekend of the NFL playoffs is going to make them a tremendous amount of money. And that's all going to go in the pot for the players, too.
Yeah, and the one argument they can make is, well, this places emphasis on the bye. Only one team gets it. But that's not worth adding a whole other team.
But it devalues the wild card. 3 teams not making a wild card.
I don't think it's worth it.
It devalues winning your division.
Trade-off isn't worth it, yeah.
Yeah, it does.
Because now if you don't win your division, you get 3 spots you can vie for instead of 2.
Right.
Ridiculous.
But like we're all talking about is like what's the best thing for the league and stuff, not money-wise, obviously.
Yeah,
right.
That's a competitive league point.
I'm sure if you asked, who makes the decisions, is it just Goodell? Is there like
The
a
owners,
board?
the owners run the league.
Yeah, but the players associate. Once the collective bargaining agreement is up for renegotiation, then the players have some say in that too.
Whatever. My point is, if all these people got together and said, "Okay, what's really the best for the competitiveness of the league?" I think they would all agree it's not adding a playoff team.
I would agree.
I think they just all, once you bring the money into it, they make the decision.
Yeah, obviously. There's no
I don't think there's anybody who would say that. No, they think it's actually better for the league, regardless of money, to have an extra playoff.
Yeah, if you took the money out of it, sure. Yeah, I agree with that. But,
so my point is, I think they would all agree with what we're talking about. They don't disagree with what we're saying.
No, I don't think they do either.
They're just like, well, we're making money though. So.
Right.
I don't know if you were an owner of a team or were playing, your pot was going to grow, your money pot from having to. Maybe you would vote for it. I don't know. I wouldn't. I think
from a fan standpoint, though, there'll be just as much excitement about the NFL playoffs as there was before. In fact, probably more because now you don't have to wait till 4:30 on the first weekend.
And you have a whole nother city now that has playoff fever.
That's
and
right.
Just pack a stadium and
that's exactly right.
That's all great, but those teams don't deserve to be in.
No, I get that.
Yeah. It's the whole participation trophy thing.
Yeah, I agree. That's exactly what it is. It's the whole participation trophy. I mean, it's like when the Tennessee the high school athletic association went to that the classification 6 with 32 teams, and everybody made the playoffs. You had 0-10 teams in the playoffs. I mean, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard of in my life.
I was totally fine with the way it has been in the field in the NFL. I don't think they needed to change it. But if you told me, hey, we're taking the top 2 teams from each conference and playing the conference finals in the Super Bowl, it'd be great.
Yeah,
you really earn it then. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would be. Well, no.
You got to have one.
Okay.
You can't
At least
like 1950s baseball. You just win the pennant.
Best record in the AFC. Best record in the AFC.
That's a little much. But
what was it? Do you have anything else to say about
No.
this? I'm gonna change topics.
Go ahead.
What was I was thinking back. What was the system when they had 3 divisions in each league? How did it work?
3 and 3, right?
3 and 3, yeah.
3
still
division
6
winners
teams.
per wild card.
Yeah.
There's still 6 teams.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they still had 6 teams, but there was only 3 division winners and 3 wild cards. Then in 2002, when they added the Texans, they went to 4 divisions and chopped off one of the wild cards, but you still had only 6 teams.
And you still had 2 buys. Top 2 seeds got buys.
Yes.
Okay. It was the same.
Yeah, the same thing. Yeah.
All right, so those are some of the major changes to this year. It'll be definitely a different year. We've talked about this in previous episodes, but the fans thing, right?
Fans? Oh.
Fans, yeah. It looks like
I
here
think if it's hot, they'll probably have them on the field. If it's cold, they'll probably
Not
have
those
any fans.
fans.
fans in the stands.
Butts in the seats.
It seems like it's kind of up to each team as to what they want to do. Well,
What's each city?
each city, excuse me.
Wait, the team is not up to... Oh, yeah.
Yeah, teams would like to fill a stadium.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know every team's situation, but you have. I know the Titans said no fans in September, right?
Yeah.
That's just one example. And then the Dolphins are saying, hey, starting week 1 or whatever, we can have 20%.
Yeah.
And then you've got, maybe it was the Cowboys are like, oh, we can fill it up, whatever, like, or half capacity. So you're going to have all these different aspects, you know what I mean? Like,
But again, when you say the Titans said this, that's all based on what their cities are allowing, correct?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I saw something today before we recorded today that Ohio has a ordinance in place right now that you can't have gatherings of more than 1,500 people. Well, they're allowing a waiver to the Browns and the Bengals. They can each have 6,000 fans at their first 2 home games.
Because you have more room to social distance.
Apparently,
right?
yeah. So they're going to have 6,000 each at their first 2 home games, which carries them through October or somewhere in October. So, like we've talked about before, I think once we get past that certain date in November, I think you're going to see a lot more fans in the stadiums.
I think the big announcement reveal is playoff time, full houses. I think that's going to... Week 14, 15, 16, you'll see commercials like fans are back, playoff time.
Right.
It's going to be...
I agree.
So, do you think there either has this happened, or do you think any team would want to go for this, where a city says, do whatever you want, but the team says, well, we're only going to allow 50% or whatever, just for a little bit anyways. Do you think as soon as they're allowed to, they'll... unless they're trying to hold it for the playoffs, but...
Well, I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, I think Joseph's point's well taken. I think... There could have been some inner discussions in the NFL. Hey, let's hold this thing and make a big reveal come playoff time. Fans are back. You're back. That could be what's happening. But I think you're going to see an increase as the season goes on as to who they allow in the stadium. But I also think and Nathan can probably speak to this, like because you said he's the one that's played most recently.
I've been playing for very many
That's
fans.
true, but he did it in high school. But my point is, there's going to be some players, Nathan wasn't one of them, that like to have fans there because they have that, rah-rah mentality. They're going to be... But then there's other players who just go about and do their job. It doesn't matter if there was a fan in the stadium or not for you, did it?
No, it doesn't matter. I'm going to have the same motivation to play on the same intensity.
Right.
But you always,
The atmosphere is better.
You always want there to be fans. Yeah. I would always want there to be a packed house, obviously.
Right, but you didn't draw any extra excitement or motivation or ability to play from that.
So J.J. Watt's going to have a tough season.
Yeah, J.J. Watt's will have a tough season.
I know what you're saying.
He won't be able to pump his chest and
The atmosphere is always better than
that. I agree with that. And I think you're going to see an increase as the months go by of more fans being allowed in.
It's going to hurt some teams more than others. You've got teams that rely on home field advantage like the Chiefs and the Seahawks.
That's true.
Notoriously loud stadiums when teams go on the road, and they're not going to have that now.
I don't know what the color the color announcer's going to say during Seahawks games now. When he can't say 12th minute every 5 seconds. Yeah. They can't show the decibels on the screen every 5. What are they going to do? How are they going to fill their time in Seahawks games?
Opposed to the Dolphins or the Bengals, where it doesn't really make a difference. It's going to be like the same noise basically, whether you have 6,000 or
exactly because nobody comes to those games anyway. That's right.
Yeah, it's great for the Seahawks. They can't push that down our throats every 5 seconds. 110 decibels.
It'll be interesting to see how it plays out with all that and with the announcers. Do they allow them in the booth together? And
I brought that up one other day. And it seemed like you're all like, "Oh, come on, like you'll be in the booth." And then we saw baseball guys aren't in the booth.
Yeah, well, I think that's ridiculous.
Well, I do too, but I think you mentioned there's more games. There's games almost every night.
Right.
And you mentioned cutting costs, not to send them out there. Football, it's 1 game per week. I think the networks are going to have the guys there.
That's a good point. The cost thing is probably, like you said, there's so many more baseball games. You're
not going to see Collinsworth slide over to Al Michaels and pump shoulders with him. They'll be 6 feet apart, I'm sure. But
then as soon as the camera's off, they step right back to
you. Whatever. But there's definitely interesting changes. You want to start us off by breaking down some of the divisions here?
Yeah, let's look at some of the divisions and some of the changes. Let's start the NFC. You want me to go who I think is going to be the winners, or just kind of talk about different teams?
No, we can touch on the divisions and then give our winners for those divisions.
Okay.
No particular playoff seeding here. We'll just talk about divisions and winners and wild cards.
Let's start with the NFC. All right, the NFC East. You've got the new Washington football team that I think is going to be. I don't think they're going to be very good. I mean, I just think with all the turmoil right now. You disagree with me or you agree with me?
No, I agree.
Yeah. I think with Dan Snyder, they're already now talking about he's He's committed some sexual violations. I mean, there's so much stuff going on with them. Their name, their everything. I just don't think they're going to be very good, and they don't have a quarterback.
Yeah, the quarterback's no good.
Yeah, so
and they just released their best player.
They released their best player, exactly. So they're not going to be any good. I think the Giants are going to be improved this year. I think the Giants.
Oh, really?
Well, I think they're going to be better than most people. They're not going to be 4-12. If they're 4-12, I'll be totally shocked.
Yeah.
I think the Giants, could possibly sneak into one of that last wild card spot. I think the class of the division is going to be like it's been the last couple of years. I think it's going to be the Cowboys and the Eagles.
Yeah, I think the Cowboys win the division. They have a little more talent than the Eagles overall. Carson Wentz. I know Nathan's been in the Carson Wentz camp from day one. You've always liked him.
I have been. I've always thought he was going to be.
Yeah, I don't know that he's like as elite as everybody thought he was going to be. Not that Prescott is when you look at the quarterbacks, but just overall, I feel like the Cowboys are more talented, and I think they could win the division at 10-6. It's not asking too much of them. It's possible. Maybe 11-5.
Well, first of all, with Wentz, if you remove all the injuries that plagued his career,
they have.
Wentz,
yeah, right.
Well, that's a knock on him.
He was playing MVP caliber level when he tore his ACL a couple years ago.
But
Well, not staying healthy is a knock on the quarterback.
Well, he was healthy last season, right? Pretty much. He didn't play that well, if I remember correctly.
He did not. No, not as great as he could.
The Redskins are always like it's like they'll have one week like, oh, are they good? Like they play, and then they have a next week like, oh, they
I
don't
think
look
this year is their 2-14 year, 1-15.
No, I was about to say they're always like you can't tell, and then turns out they're not really that good.
Yeah, right.
And then now they just let go their best player, like you said, and they have no quarterback. They're probably just going to blow all year.
They're going to be horrible. But I agree with you on the Cowboys. I think they're going to win that division. The NFC North, I mean, that's going to be an interesting division. You got the Packers. You would think the Packers would probably win it again, but they really didn't upgrade their offense in the draft. So you've got Aaron Rodgers, who's you got to admit, is kind of on the downside.
Didn't him and the head coach not have beef or something like that?
They had a little beef because Aaron Rodgers was in November, but he's also was upset that they didn't draft him a wide receiver. They took a backup quarterback, which was interesting.
And they've never really had a good go-to running back. It's
Correct.
Kind of been like whoever they can find that week.
Correct. I think the Vikings are going to be the team in that division, and I say that because Kirk Cousins, while he hasn't proved himself to be a championship quarterback. I think he's good enough with the players they have around him. I think the Vikings can win that division. They did lose Stephon Diggs. He went to the Bills. Yeah, but he was. I can't remember if he was a free agent or. I think he was a free agent. Yeah. But anyway, they lose him, but they still have Adam Thielen. They still have a couple other guys. I think the Vikings.
I have them win the division as well. So
and I think the other two teams in that division.
Just yesterday, the Bears named Mitch Trubisky their starter.
Yeah.
So.
Why do they have to do that?
Because they had Nick Foles. They got Nick Foles, so I guess there was some type of competition there.
Yeah. And the Lions are basically a dumpster fire.
Have the Buccaneers named Tom Brady their starter yet?
Yeah, they did. They named him starter back in February.
Who do you think is going to be better, the Lions or the Bears?
I think the Bears are going to be better. I think.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm
just curious.
I'm not as down on Trubisky.
You said in the fantasy podcast.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I'm not as down on Trubisky as everybody else is. I feel sorry for the guy. I really do. But I think he's shown himself to be a pretty good quarterback. He's not a great quarterback, but he's not a bad quarterback.
The thought, I didn't want to interrupt your flow. Maybe I did, but the thought entered my head that I could see the Bears in the hunt to win the division late in the season. Could you not? You think?
Yeah, I agree. I don't disagree. They have a good enough defense,
and I feel like they have two good running backs, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and the Lions, Matt Stafford is the Phillip Rivers of the NFC.
Look,
that's a good one. Yeah.
I'm sure the Bears Packers, one of those games is going to be a primetime game.
Probably. Oh yeah,
it's probably going to be in Chicago. One of them. I can see them winning that game. Maybe. So let's say they split with the Packers.
Yeah.
Let's say I can see them splitting with the Vikings.
Right.
And then they're going to beat the Lions twice, and then who knows?
I think Trubisky is an excellent backup quarterback. He's great.
I don't disagree with that.
Put him in there for a stretch, he can possibly win some games. But I think there's a lot of better.
They got Nick Foles.
Yeah, well,
I don't know that he's a great.
I don't think he's a great starter. I don't know. That's my opinion.
Nick Foles is a great starter when he comes off the bench and relieves somebody else.
Both of them are backup quarterbacks.
Yeah.
They don't have, that's what I think. But I don't know. We'll see.
We both had the Vikings.
Yeah.
The South is going to be interesting this year.
Yeah.
Really interesting because obviously, as Nathan said, the Buccaneers have named Tom Brady as their starting quarterback.
Have they? That's what I'm saying. I haven't heard officially.
I saw a tweet today that said, breaking news, Christian McCaffrey has made the 53-man roster for the Panthers. So.
But the South is going to be a really competitive division. I think the Falcons are going to be better this year than they were last year. I think the Saints obviously were the class of the division last year. The Buccaneers, as much as I'm not a big Tom Brady fan, you got Brady, you got Mike Evans, you got Chris Godwin. They just picked up Leonard Fournette. You got a pretty solid defense that they've had for the last couple of years. They could be a real force in that division.
One of the best linebackers in the league.
Levante David.
I have them win the division.
Do you really?
Yeah,
I don't.
As we discussed in the last podcast.
Well, you better hope they win the division.
I tied my fantasy horse to their team. I believe in them. I think they can go 12-4. I think there's a case to be made that they can go 13-3 even. I don't know. I don't know if that happens, but you got the Saints. Nathan brought this up. I think he touched on it. Drew Brees is going to be 41 this year. Like, at some point he's not.
Brady's going to be face 43.
I know.
With the new team.
I know. That's true. That's
sorry,
true.
but I shot your age
I
thing down.
I know,
But at some point, Brady and Brees, at some point, you never know when they're going to come out one year and just be flat, and that's the end of it, right?
Right, but I think Brady didn't have a fantastic year last year, like a great year.
No, he didn't.
I think when people think of the Saints, like, Drew Brees, high-flying offense, he's going to air it out. Well, at some point, that kind of takes a downside.
So your point is Brady didn't have a great year, but the team still did well with him at quarterback.
I don't know that Michael Thomas is going to have 1 million receptions and Brees is going to be thrown all over the place. I think they can go 10-6, 11-5, and I think that I think there's a little more downside there. I don't know. I could be talked out of it. My personal opinion is the Buccaneers win the division. I don't know.
Well, I can't really disagree with you because I didn't pick them to win the division, but I see your point because if you look at the Buccaneers the last 2 or 3 years, they were fighting for the playoffs each year with Jameis Winston at quarterback. So
you do a lot of touchdowns though. Let's remember.
Yeah, that's true. But I'm saying you put Tom Brady in there, and they could very well win that division. Yeah. My only point is, Tom Brady's going to have a much better receiving core than he had in New England the last couple of years. But I don't know that he's going to have the culture of that team and the decision making that he had under the Belichick regime with players and who they play and keep, and that's so. I think some of that's going to wash out, but I think Brady will still be Brady.
2 questions: what's the offensive line like?
Right, Tampa? I don't think it's that great.
Okay, which even with a not good offensive line, Jameis Winston can flourish because he can get outside the pocket.
Right,
if you want to call that flourishing.
Right.
I'm just saying.
No, you're right.
And my number 2 question would be. Was Brady like Manning all those years? Was Brady always called the plays or get 2 options, or was he always getting the play sent in?
I think you've seen him send in more.
Yeah,
Josh McDaniels has called a lot of plays.
So that could be a difference too, then, right?
That could be a difference too. Sure, it could.
Although Bruce Arians, I guess, is calling plays. He's supposed to be like a wizard.
Byron Leftwich is their offensive coordinator. I don't know who's calling the plays. I think.
You think Brady's going to be taking plays from Byron Leftwich?
I think Arians is going to call the plays. Yeah.
I think Brady will have more room to flourish and be who he wants to be because he's not dealing with Belichick.
Well, I'll say this. I think Tampa makes the playoffs either way.
I agree with that. I picked him to be a wild card.
Okay. Especially after... Do you think they would have made the playoffs? Do you think there'll be something better than the 3rd wild card?
I think they would have made it either way. That's my opinion.
I picked him to be a 2nd wild card.
I'm going to say this too real quick about Leonard Fournette is a better running back than A, people think, and B, his stats even show. I'm telling you. He's going to... I'm just saying, he could have a dominant year. If not this year, maybe... My point is he's a better running back than...
Yeah.
I know you point to his stats. Well, look at what he actually... How many... That's fine. I just think he's a better running back.
Yeah, well, I think he proved that his first year with the Jaguars. He had a pretty good year that year. I mean, for a rookie. Yeah. They got to the AFC Championship.
Maybe he just needs a new... even though it's not that
new environment?
Yeah. 50 miles down the road or whatever. Just needs a new environment.
So on TV, some reporter on ESPN, they're talking to Adrian Peterson, like, where do you think he lands? And the guy goes, don't expect Bruce Arians to take a look at him. He goes, he coached him in Arizona for half a season. He likes him. He's just collecting running backs down there. McCoy, Fournette, Peterson.
They're all going to get 3 carries a game.
That's ridiculous.
They're all going to get 3 carries a game.
All right, so NFC West.
Well, actually, Bruce, he'll probably want to do a presentation to him to make sure. NFC West.
NFC West.
Wait, what?
It's an inside joke. I'll explain it later.
I think... I have in total 3 playoff teams coming from this division.
Do you really?
I think the Rams win it.
Do you really?
Yeah, I think that.
I'm interested to hear your reasoning behind that.
Okay. So 2 years ago they were in the Super Bowl. Okay.
Right.
Last year they kind of had the, if you want to call it like Super Bowl hangover or whatever. Teams that lose the Super Bowl traditionally don't have a great year the next year. Not always, but traditionally. I think that happens to the 49ers a little bit this year. I think maybe they go 8-8, 9-7, but I still think they make the playoffs under this new format. Mm-hmm. I think they're the last wild card. The Seahawks are always going to be good. I think they make the playoffs as well, maybe 10-6, 11-5 even. But I think Jared Goff has a good year. I think that it seems like every year the league becomes more passing friendly. I could see him throwing for close to 5,000 yards. And they rely on him a little bit more. They don't have Gurley this year, but he didn't do a lot for him last year.
But that could have been the reason why they were 8-8 last year. In other words, I guess my point is Goff more dependent on having a running back he can turn around and give it to from time to time?
Gurley weren't quite the same last year.
That's what I mean.
Hip problem, right?
That's what I mean. So they called upon Goff to do more.
That's right. Okay. I thought you said having Gurley allowed them to win 8 games. You're saying
no. I said that the fact that Goff didn't have that running back threat. Yeah. But I don't disagree with you.
I mean, I'm saying that the Seahawks can win the division and the Rams might be a wild card. I think 3 playoff teams are coming in that division, but I give the edge to the Rams.
No respect for Garoppolo.
Yeah,
No, you don't, apparently. I do.
Yeah. Well,
I disagree with you
play on the field.
a little bit there. I picked the 49ers to repeat as the division champions, but I did pick the Seahawks to make the playoffs. I think the Seahawks are going to be in the playoffs one way or the other. Either they win the division or they get a wild card. I just thought they'd get the wild card. I just don't see the Rams. I don't see the Rams competing because they don't have a running back to speak of that's going to be able to replace what they had with Gurley the year before last and the year before that. And I think Goff is a really good quarterback, but I just think he needs a guy behind him that he can hand it off to 25 to 30 times a game for him to be effective. But when you ask him to throw it 30, 35 times a game, I just don't think he can. I don't think he's that great of a quarterback.
Didn't they lose one of these other running backs too that got quite a few carries last year, split with Gurley? I forget his name. He was a chunkier guy. Didn't they lose him or did they still?
Well, I think they had him the year they made it to the Super Bowl. I don't know if they had him last year or not, but I'm sure they've got somebody though. Obviously, they picked
there was a
up
couple
somebody.
guys on that fantasy list.
Yeah. They've got somebody, but that's not the point. I just don't think that they're going to be able to do it. So again, I'll go through my predictions and then you can go through yours. I got the Cowboys winning the East, the Vikings winning the North, the Saints winning the Central or the South, the 49ers winning the West. I got the Seahawks being the number 1 wild card, the Buccaneers being the number 2 wild card, and I have the Giants being the number 3 wild card. And then in the playoffs, now assuming that the seeding, and I assumed that the 49ers would get the 1 seed, the Saints the 2, the Cowboys the 3, and the Vikings the 4. So I've got, in the first round, I've got the Giants at New Orleans, Tampa Bay at Dallas, and Seattle at Minnesota.
Okay. I didn't break down all through the playoffs here, but I've got Minnesota in the North, Tampa Bay in the South, Dallas in the East, the Rams in the West. Then I've got Seattle being the first wild card, New Orleans the second, and San Francisco the third.
Okay.
And after we do the AFC, we'll talk about Super Bowl picks.
All right.
But
why don't you start us off on the AFC?
All right. So we'll start AFC West. We have the defending Super Bowl champions. I think they win the division again. There's too much talent there.
Right.
Like Broncos don't really have a quarterback. Chargers don't have a quarterback.
Raiders don't have a quarterback.
Raiders really don't either. And you've got Mahomes, who's a former MVP. I mean, he could theoretically throw another 50 touchdowns. I mean,
I think that's the most runaway division in football.
I think it's their division. They could go 14-2 pretty easily.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But I do have the Raiders as the last wild card.
Okay.
I think they find a way to.
That's interesting.
To get in there.
Okay.
You just want to see Las Vegas
playoff game. No, I think the Raiders and the Rams their stadiums are worth 2 wins by themselves this year.
The Rams uniforms are minus 2 wins.
That's true.
So it equals it out.
Yeah. Go.
So I agree with you on the Chiefs.
I guess you won't have a Vegas playoff game there if you have them as the last seed. Though,
right.
Vegas.
Let's look at the AFC East. That's going to be an interesting division this year. I mean, in the past it would be rubber stamp Patriots, but now it kind of opened up a little bit. And by the way, the Patriots did announce a couple days ago that Cam Newton was going to be their starting.
Was that news?
Yeah, it was like an update.
Technically, it was, but
not really.
I expected it. Like I think everybody expected it.
How come it seems like this season all of a sudden teams feel like they need to announce their starters?
Well, I guess because they had traded for him and they had a couple other guys there already.
Stidham guy.
Yeah, whatever. But I don't think the Patriots win that division this year. I think the Bills win the division this year. What do you think?
I think until somebody can prove me wrong, the Patriots are going to win the division. Like.
We still don't know if it was Belichick or Brady. What was the main...
Well, but
reason for success?
Jets aren't.
No, the Jets
Dolphins aren't.
No.
So the Bills would be the de facto team, but they have to prove it. Like, I'm not ready to let them have it until they prove it, which they could prove me wrong this year, but I think the Patriots win at maybe 10-6, maybe 9-7. Maybe the Bills are somewhere around that same record, but I think that, like Nathan said, it could, Belichick or Brady, like in a week 15, 16 game, a crucial game, I'm going to go with Belichick and the Patriots over the Bills.
No matter who's the quarterback.
I just am, you know. And Cam Newton, the guy, I don't know if he's totally done. I mean, he's a former MVP. The Belichick could get something out of him, I think, you know.
That's a good point. Like you said, if it's like a crucial game and you have to lean to, if it's kind of like a wash almost on the field, but you have to lean a certain way, I would lean more to the Bill Belichick coach team than I would a Tom Brady quarterback Buccaneers team.
Right.
Even though he's great, the organization, the team is not the same.
Well, but the interesting thing is going to be this. You know, the Patriots last year, they won the division, right? They were 12-4, all right? But we all know why they were 12-4. Their division's weak. But the Bills did give them a fight in both games they played, all right? Now, but then the Patriots bowed out to the Titans in the first round of the playoffs, right? First game they played, all right? But Tom Brady could not get anything out of that receiving core, right? That was the big talk that, you know, the receivers. What makes you think that Cam Newton's going to get anything out of it, all right? And they did just release, who was it they just released, the Patriots?
Oh, Sanu?
Sanu, right. The guy that they brought in last year thinking that he was going to be the one to upgrade their receiving core. So I don't see any evidence that the Patriots are going to be any better in the passing game than they were last year. In fact, probably a little bit worse, okay? So either you're going to be able to run the ball really well or something. You know, I guess I don't see it, you know?
Yeah, I'm not saying they're going to win because they're going to do anything great. I just don't trust the Bills. So I'm going to default give it to Belichick.
You're saying they might barely squeak it out of the Bills.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's fair. Yeah, that's fair.
Whatever happened before he moved divisions? Whatever happened to that guy? I haven't fancy. I think it was last year too. He played for the Browns and he got like in trouble off the field and he was suspended.
Josh Gordon.
Yeah.
Somebody picked him up just recently. Somebody. Nathan, look that up for us if you don't mind. I thought I saw where Josh Gordon was picked up by somebody.
How did it end though? His last time he was on the field, the Patriots cut him.
The Patriots cut him. Yeah. The Patriots released him, but
that was last season.
Yeah, beginning of last season.
Seahawks re-signed suspended wide receiver Josh Gordon 2 days ago.
Okay. Yeah. Seahawks got him.
They said they re-signed. Did he go there after the Patriots?
He did.
Yeah, he did. Yeah. But then what about the other guy, Antonio Brown? Nobody signed him yet, right?
He's suspended for 8 games. So whoever signed him is to sit 8 games. But all right, AFC South.
Yeah,
you know that's
Titans.
I have the Colts.
Do you?
Yeah, you could kind of say that's up for grabs, really, between Texans, Titans, and Colts.
By the way, I saw the Colts decided to go with a rookie kicker.
Oh, really?
Vinatieri's out.
Okay. Well.
Yeah. But not that makes any difference. I just thought I'd throw that out there.
Yeah. I think the Titans kind of caught lightning in a bottle last year. Of course, they didn't. Texans won the division last year. Remind me.
Texas won the division.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
The Titans got hot though and made the playoffs.
Yeah.
I don't think Tannehill can really repeat that. Derrick Henry's kind of a hot and cold guy too.
Right.
Then you got the Texans who lost DeAndre Hopkins.
It's a wide open division.
Yeah, I think Phillip Rivers has a little something left. I think that they have some good offensive weapons there. I just think the Colts win.
I would have no problem with that. I just thought the Titans might have a little bit better team all the way around.
And like I said, if they can, I think they're kind of a momentum team. If they can get hot,
yes,
they can certainly win the division.
Yeah, they can. So I don't disagree.
Is Mariota still their backup?
No, he's with the Raiders now. Yeah.
Okay,
they released him. He was with their backup last year after they went to Tannehill, and then I think his contract just expired. In other words, they didn't re-sign him. Yeah. And then the last one is the AFC North. I think you still have to go with the Ravens there. I don't think they're going to be 14-2 again, but I think they're going to win the division.
I agree.
Yeah. I mean, the Browns and the Bengals are dumpster fires, and the Steelers. Roethlisberger, I think, is about done.
Yeah, when's he gonna?
I think
he has to be like 37.
He's the same age as Manning. He's been in the league since 2004.
Well, he basically didn't play all last year. He left after the first game.
That's true.
He had Tommy John surgery, which is weird for a quarterback.
It is weird.
He didn't play here, but just because of an injury. So I don't know if that's positive.
And that's,
I mean, he
I'm
got
saying
hurt.
I'm saying it's not positive.
Oh,
He's
okay.
got
I thought you were saying he's rested. I was like, yeah,
a
but
year of rust, and
He's rusty.
they don't have
Got
Antonio
rusty.
Brown anymore. I
Right.
don't believe in Juju Smith-Schuster. Everybody's trying to make him out to be a star wide receiver. I just
Their
don't see it.
defense could carry them.
Well,
a
I think
little
he was
bit,
real good when they had Antonio Brown
Right.
because they had.
Yeah, I don't think.
What if James Harrison comes back?
Yeah.
Does that change your?
No, I actually have them as the 7th or 8th playoff seed, depending
too.
on the Raiders.
Yeah.
I don't think they win the division though.
No, I think the Ravens win the division. So I'll start there. I think to recap, I've got the Bills winning the East. I got the Ravens winning the North, the Titans winning the South, and the Chiefs winning the West. I got the number 1 wild card being the Steelers, the second wild card being the Patriots, and the third wild card being the Colts.
Okay, yeah, I've got Baltimore in the North, Colts in the South, Patriots in the East, Chiefs in the West, and then I've got the Titans as the first wild card, and then really flip or flop, but I think Pittsburgh and Las Vegas in the 7 and 8.
Okay.
playoffs.
And then as I did in the NFC, I went ahead and gave the 1 seed to the Chiefs, 2 to the Ravens, 3 to the Titans, 4 to the Bills. So in the first round of the playoffs, I got the Colts at the Ravens, I got the Patriots at the Titans, and I got the Steelers at the Bills.
Okay. So, all right. So, like I said, I didn't break down every playoff round, but and my Super Bowl pick will be the Cowboys and the Chiefs.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Everybody thinks the Cowboys gonna get there every single year.
I know, but I really don't like picking teams that won it last year to get back this year again.
You just did.
I know I did. I said I really don't like doing it, and every year you hear most people, I think they get back, but I don't see who's going to beat them in the AFC.
The Chiefs kind of appear to me to be like the Dynasty Patriots team. Like, who's going to beat them in the AFC? You know, like the Patriots were all those years.
Brady's gone now. Rivers is past his prime.
Right.
He was never. I mean,
the Chargers were always a threat.
I guess.
You talked about Roethlisberger and the Steelers being down. Who else is going to beat them?
No.
I mean, maybe the Patriots go 11-5, 12-4 this year, and they're in the playoffs. Belichick finds a way to beat them. That's not impossible, but for the most part, yeah, I just don't see it. That's why I see them getting back to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think my pick for the AFC Championship game was the Chiefs and the Ravens.
Okay.
And I think in the NFC, I think it's going to be the 49ers and the Seahawks playing for the NFC Championship.
Okay.
And I think in the Super Bowl, I got to go with the Chiefs. And I think the Seahawks are going to get to the Super Bowl this year. I think, I think they're a solid football team. I think they've got a great run. They're probably got the best overall running game in the league. And I think their defense has been upgraded a little bit. So, and I agree with you. I don't think the 49ers are really good enough to get back to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Their running game is a little bit up in the air.
Right.
I think they lost that Mostert guy, or whatever his last name was.
They lost about.
I thought he went somewhere else. Maybe I'm misspeaking there, but
Checking that.
yeah.
I can pretty quickly here. 49ers.
Okay, no, they still got him.
Okay, how about wide receiver? Didn't they have? Didn't they get somebody? Emmanuel.
Emmanuel Sanders with the Saints now.
Right. So they lost their receiver. Of course, they still have Kittle.
Yeah.
But I'm not sold on Garoppolo yet. I mean, I think the guy had a chance to win the Super Bowl. I mean, he had a chance to win the Super Bowl with a good throw, and he overthrew. I guess what I'm trying to say is no offense to Garoppolo. He's an NFL quarterback, but if you're a championship quarterback, you make that throw.
No, I know, but
the guy was open.
No, I'm not saying it about the throw. I'm just saying, but you don't think he has the enough skill, maybe not to win a Super Bowl, but to win the division and get back to the Super Bowl,
Okay.
And then lose it again, maybe.
Yeah. But I think that when you look at the two teams that were in the Super Bowl last year, the Chiefs are built more for repeat trips.
Yes,
they do.
And there's more competition in the NFC. You just talked about the Seahawks.
I like the Seahawks pick though.
The Saints, like we just talked about, the Buccaneers could get hot. They have potential. If Aaron Rodgers got back to the Super Bowl, it wouldn't be a total shock. So I mean, there's
his window's as long as it's closed.
The only problem I have with the Chiefs is they've got to get their defense fixed.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, they fell behind in both those playoff games.
Yeah, the Texans had them.
Texans had them. And I just don't know that they don't have a championship caliber defense. And I think your offense, there's always going to be mistakes on offense, bad throws, interceptions, fumbles, whatever. And if you don't have a defense that can shut that down until your offense gets untracked, you could find yourself in a world of hurt. So that would be my only problem with the Chiefs is their defense.
All right. So, and again, I really hate to do this, but I'm trying to pick who I think will win the Super Bowl. I got the Chiefs over the Cowboys.
Yeah,
Probably mostly because I don't think Dak Prescott is a Super Bowl winning quarterback. I think he manages them enough to get there, and I think that some things go their way, but he's not going to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that. I think the Chiefs will probably win it again. It should be an interesting Super Bowl this year, especially if they get there against the Seahawks. I'd like to see that matchup. Cowboys, I'm not sure. I mean, I agree with you on Dak Prescott. I think he's a really nice quarterback. I think the guy is overachieved.
Yeah.
I mean, for a 4th-round pick, the Cowboys have lightning in a bottle there. I mean,
And then, if you're listening, Dak Prescott,
we still love you, Jack.
Sign a contract.
Yeah.
Like you just
Sign the
said, you're a 4th-round pick. Okay, you didn't get the type of rookie deal that the 1st-round picks got. All the sources have been saying they're offering you a lot of good money. It's like, why hold out for a couple extra million? Just sign the deal.
Right.
Like, right. I don't really get it. But
well, I mean, I guess he's thinking, I don't know what he's thinking, to be honest with you, but
he's probably thinking he's going to bet on himself,
and that's fine. And I guess at quarterback you can do that because your chances of injury are less than they are at other positions. Right. In other words, if I'm a linebacker, I'm not betting on myself because I could get hurt and then that 1-year deal is gone and I'm done. Yeah. So
you said ruptured back.
Or running back.
Oh.
Yeah, or running back. In other words,
I think when ruptured back.
if they're offering me a 6-year contract with $60 million guaranteed, I'm taking it over $20 million for 1 year and then try to do it again next year. I'm just not going to do that. I mean, you know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, it makes more sense that way. Yeah. But yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. I already feel a lot better about the sports environment. We got. Even though I'm not an NBA fan, we got the NBA playoffs now coming to a culmination. The NHL, we got baseball looking like they're going to be able to maybe finish their season, and get into a playoff situation. Yeah, we got football we got college football on TV. It's starting to get a little more comfortable.
That's a good point. I think we've turned the corner of our sport's going to happen. What's it going to be like? To just more focusing on the sports themselves now. Like,
correct.
Okay, it's time for the season. Like, let's talk about the games. Not all the other stuff.
I agree with that. And they had college football games on today, which is Saturday, September 5th.
Yeah. And I think too, I mean, it's going to be a really interesting fall. And the reason I say that is, today, for those of you listening at home, it's opening day of the NFL season, but we've recorded this, the Saturday prior to that. So the Kentucky Derby is today. Well, that's probably got lost in the shuffle, right? But my point is that over the next 4 months, between now and December 31st, you can have 3 of the top horse races, the Kentucky Derby, the Preakness, and the Belmont Stakes.
None of those have happened yet?
None of them happened yet. You're going to have the NBA Finals. You're going to have the Major League Baseball playoffs and World Series. You're going to have the Stanley Cup Finals. You're going to have the United States Open in golf and the Masters in golf. You're going to have college football and NFL football. I mean, it's going to be a sports cornucopia for fans.
Everybody's been saying that, and you're right, but I would have preferred it the normal way.
I would too.
Everything... but I'm saying some people are like, it was worth it. Now we have all this at once.
It's not worth it.
No, it's not.
No, I agree with that.
You wouldn't take the doldrums of the summer to have this packed.
No, I want it the normal way. But I'm just saying.
But now that it has to be like this, it's nice.
It's nice. Yeah. I mean, it's
it's like those commercials with the Sour Patch. Was the Sour Patch? They're sour than nice. Is that what it is?
Oh yeah, the first thing.
Sour
and
then the sweet or something.
First COVID hits and does stuff, and then COVID turns around and goes, "Here's the sports fall." It's like, oh, thanks.
Yeah, now, maybe we'll put this question on Twitter, but we've talked about. Hopefully, you'll have a couple Sundays where you got to choose between Tiger and the final round of a major in the NFL, which I'm going to take Tiger because that comes around once in a blue moon in the NFL every week. But maybe we'll put that out there. What are you watching that Sunday?
That's exactly right.
Well, you can watch. Why you can watch the early games and then tune into the golf?
Yeah, you could. Yeah, you can watch the early games. Yeah.
I mean, I'm saying on a traditional major schedule, the leaders tee off around 2:30.
That's what I'm saying. You watch the early games.
Early games on at 1.
Yeah, watch it. Miss the first 3 holes, then watch them play.
Yeah, but I see Joseph's point. Joseph's point is if you really like Tiger Woods and you're a golf fan, you want to watch every hole he plays on a Sunday. Like last year when we watched.
I don't know what they're going to do, but. If I'm the golf tournament, I try to tee off as early as possible, but they can finish around 1 or 2.
All right. Well, here's another thing to consider. Remember, when they play these normal U.S. normal golf majors, they're in the summer. In November, it's going to be
Oh,
dark at 6 o'clock in
So probably
Augusta,
start
so
earlier.
they have to start them a little earlier.
Well, look, we can all agree that you can, if you pick golf, you can enjoy a wonderful golf Sunday and
Yes,
then
you
watch
can.
Sunday Night Football.
Yes, you can. There you go. That's a good point.
Correct.
Thank you very much, Nathan. That was well
All
put.
right, so yeah, we're looking forward to the NFL season. There's a good discussion on this official NFL preview. So we've given you the fantasy preview and the league preview.
You
so
should be ready to go.
Should be ready to go. And as you mentioned, tons of stuff coming down the pike here that we'll get to in later episodes as well. So we'll look forward to it.
So yeah, we've enjoyed bringing this to you. Stay tuned. We're going to try to get on a more regular schedule, and we look forward to coming at you again on the Pressbox Podcast. Make sure you check out our Twitter page at PressboxPod. We'll try to get some Twitter questions up there, and make sure you hit back at us on that, and follow us on Pressbox Pod.
All right, we'll see you next time on the Pressbox Podcast.